Hello, I'm Rich Carville, retired faculty member from Arkansas State University and former chair of the Department of Radio TV at ASU. Welcome back to this series of conversations with members of the Jonesboro City Council. We're looking at the past year and looking forward to 2014. And our guest in this segment is Alderman Dr. Charles Coleman, who represents Ward 2.
Position 1.
Where is Ward 2? What are the boundaries?
It's really a big area, believe it or not. It goes all the way west to Parnell. It goes east to part of Caraway. It goes south to some parts of Flint and all the streets in between. Then it goes north out to, I think it's CR1 something out there. It's a pretty large area.
It's a large.
As a matter of fact, the 2010 census changed some of the boundaries, and so it's a little bit bigger than I thought, when I would look back at the map. Yeah.
Well, of course, all the wards are designed to have close to equal population.
Absolutely. Right.
Some of them will have larger geographic areas
Right.
than others. But well, let's look back at 2013 and tell me what you think are the 3 or 4 most important accomplishments for the city.
Well, to me, the growth of the city, period. You might say that's not an accomplishment, but it is an accomplishment because, maybe 20 years ago, I just knew that the city was going to be close to 100,000 people. And that growth has brought in more industry, especially the food industry area. The accomplishments of actually working with the city and doing things from I call the community base. We started trying to do expansion on Patrick and Washington, which has been a total need ever since I've been here. They also
North Jonesboro needs some attention, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It needs great attention. Matter of fact, my predicament really is that hopefully one day that 141 will look like 49. I'm not sure we're totally ready for that type. But in that accomplishment, being able to talk with some of the legislators to help the state do some things for us, getting contribution, getting money, to do something on our highways, that's been a basic thing for me. But then the biggest accomplishment for me is actually just serving the community, not just the north side area, but all the communities. I got a compliment the other day that kind of surprised me. Lady needed some help on the farther south of Jonesboro, and she asked me, and I was able to call people from the city, and they helped her, and she shocked me. And I said, isn't that amazing? Because I've always contended that I'm a councilman for the whole city, even though I was elected in one ward. So those are things. And then we look at this building. That's a great accomplishment, but
the municipal building.
Just right. The municipal building. But I think from that perspective, it's not so much the building, but the people that's within the building that's doing, some great jobs that people don't know that they're doing. So that's an accomplishment whatsoever.
Okay. What do you see happening? You said 141. You hope that maybe it'll develop like 49.
Right.
What about the development on 49?
Well, I've talked to a couple of state representatives. I've talked to a couple of banks. I would like to see industry, food industry like Kentucky Fried Chicken, see some banks out there. Maybe.
Up in the north part of Jonesboro.
Yes, sir. See a Walmart, basically to give some people some employment. Because it's kind of a sad state because 90% of the people that work south, not 90%, that's a big number, but a lot of people that works in the south of Jonesboro live on the north side. Okay, and there's not a hardware store, there's not a bank, there's not a real food place to sit down and eat. So I'm hoping that the expansion of those type of industry would help for the employment sector. So those are things I like to see accomplished on 141.
It's easy to hope for that. How do you get it done?
Well, I think the city has already started. I think that Heather Clemens writing grants to get the infrastructure work on. If there's I think there's a lot of things is being bought for us, property is being bought so that the mind change is coming in. If we can get that started, then I think that these things would happen. And it's going to be it's not going to be an overnight situation. It's going to be a time-consuming thing, but we got a lot of time.
Boy, that Highway 49 corridor has really
Absolutely,
boomed.
absolutely. It's amazing when, especially with the new hospital.
Right.
Out there, and at the same time, all the restaurants, all the new facilities, and those same type things could happen on 141. Maybe not to that magnitude, but I believe that they could happen. That's probably one of the better assets, even though we've done stadium and a lot of things have happened on stadium. But I really love what's happening on 49.
Yeah. I live out that way. I know what's happening.
Yeah.
How about the apartment moratorium? Where are we on that?
We have had a lot of meetings. I mean, a lot of meetings. And we're just about to climax it by putting all that information together. Jonesboro have probably a little bit more apartments than people think. It just depends on where they're located.
And a huge occupancy.
Right, a huge occupancy.
Yeah.
And it depends on where they're located. But to give a total assessment on the moratorium, we've just got tons and tons of information that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the biggest problems of not communicating, because we didn't have the information that we could disseminate. Now we have information that we can disseminate and put together, and I think this is going to help us in our decisions on what type of apartments or what type of multi-purpose places that we're going to have in Jonesboro. So that's where we're kind of sitting at this point.
Apartments are difficult because I think most people will agree that we need some sort of living, but not in my neighborhood.
But at the same time,
and that's a problem.
That's a problem. But I think one of the things that if I had to basically make a statement, and I've already said this several times, is that the responsibility of who owns the apartment is one of the greater things in my head. In other words, I would hate to see 90% of our apartments owned by an outside vendor.
Yeah.
Because an outside vendor to me is mostly looking at the money, the monetary side, rather than looking at unique, looking good, that type of thing. So if we can kind of do something with that, set up some type of schedule of saying, well, if you own apartments, then you have to maintain them 5 or 10 years before you sell them to an outside agency, which allows them to keep up the situation.
Can you do that legally?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm hoping that some of those answers come out that way, so I'm not sure. Anyway, that's my thought. Yeah.
Another street name change that was proposed, and you brought this up, was to name a street for the great civil rights leader, Dr. Martin
Luther King, yes.
And that didn't make it out of committee.
No, it didn't, and I don't have a problem with that. Mainly what I did, I used to tell people that I'm really not a politician. I'm a political servant, meaning that if somebody in the community wants something that's viable, that I think is viable to help them, it's not so much my thought. But I had several groups that came forward that kind of pressed me over the years to suggest a resolution to get that taken care of, and that's what I did. So it wasn't so much a personal situation. Is that if we're going to serve our constituents,
you had constituents who said, let's do this.
Yes, let's do that. And we had several groups that had been pressuring me to try to bring up a resolution for the last 3 or 4 years. So that's how that came out.
Okay, we've kind of looked forward to 2014. What are other things that we need to do in 2014?
You mentioned a few minutes ago the north side. And I have to admit, because I live on the north side, that I'm kind of prejudiced toward doing more things. Better housing. We talk about the moratorium for apartments. I would like to see some of that happen on the north side, where we tear down some of the dilapidated places. And right now, I think the code enforcement is doing a great job by tearing down a lot of these places that need to be torn down.
And that's a new effort, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, and I think that they're doing a great job. I really do. They even have to get me sometime when I have property on the north side. But I think that in 2014, if we could show the people on the north side of the Ward 2 area that the city itself the city government itself is really looking at doing something on the north side. I think 2014 would be a great start for a great year to do that.
The downtown area has developed
Absolutely.
tremendously. What else needs to be done?
Absolutely. Matter of
downtown?
fact, it kind of reminds me of Fayetteville sometimes. You know, how they have opened up some of the restaurants, some of the places for eating that you can go to, and I like it because it's a lot safer. It wasn't as safe before, and since a lot of businesses have opened up and a lot of the city collaboration with the downtown association, that's a great thing for Jonesboro. Yeah.
One of the recommendations by the consultant is that something needs to be done to the old Citizens Bank building. And
that's kind of an eyesore right now. I think until that place has been totally inspected, and you know, we've talked about it and talked about it, but I've yet to see any initiative toward going in and totally inspecting it, looking at the structure, looking at the.
Because it was built, what, back in the 60s?
Probably. I wasn't
50s,
living here then, but I think that you know, any structure can be renovated to a maximum of looking beautiful.
Yeah.
But if you don't start somewhere, you know, you can talk about it all day long, but if you don't start doing something, and I just haven't seen a strong effort. I hear about how bad it looks, but I don't see any people venturing to see how bad it is.
Well, the consultant says that the city needs to take the lead on this and maybe even buy the building. Do you see that happening?
You know, the city is doing so much and doing a lot more, I think, than people think that we're doing for us in that initiative, but it's like anything else that you do, even in your household, you have priorities. And I think right now our priorities are trying to get these highways straight, trying to get these streets straight, trying to get us to travel through, because right now on any given day and time in Jonesboro, you go down any street, used to be, you know, a few streets, any street now, you got a congested area.
So you're looking at maybe widening streets?
Right. So in 2014, I think that would be probably one of the major goals, is to do to assess our transportation. We got a good transportation engineer. I think well of him. I've seen all the stuff he's doing, and I think if we kind of unloose his hands a little bit, he can do a whole lot more. But you know, you got to have that money when you unloose people's hands.
Well, and of course, one of the other projects that's been mentioned is the need for an overpass at Highland and 18.
But I've heard that 2 or 3 different ways. I've heard the overpass in the Highland area, but I've also heard an overpass for the north. You know, so it's kind of like the chicken and egg, which is going to come first. You know. And I think if the highway department allows us the finance to do whichever, it's going to be a need. If it's north or if it's south, it's going to be a need. So right now, Jonesboro is populated with so many things that need to be done, and we're moving so fast. I just hope we don't overshadow ourselves.
Yeah, that'll be a tough one.
Yeah.
Dr. Coleman, thank you very much.
Appreciate you. It was very good seeing you. Yeah.
I'm Rich Carville.